Hello, this is a very quick video about Pure Data's hot and cold inlets and how this can potentially be used to our advantage. So if I put an object box and give it the plus sign with no value in either inlet, we've got two inlets at the top. The one on the left is the hot inlet. When you put a number in there, it adds it to whatever is in the right hand inlet and triggers the output. But when you put a number in the right hand inlet, it just kind of puts that number without you seeing it in there. So if we put a 5 and we click 5 as a message into there, that 5 would be stored in there, but nothing would be sent out of the output. The calculation wouldn't be done until you made a calculation in the left hand inlet. So now if we click 5 and then we just do our number series, we see that 5 is being permanently added there. That is both tricky to understand but also useful once you get the hang of it. And what you may say is, well, independent of whichever inlet I want the calculation to happen. So the left hand inlet takes a number and triggers a calculation, but it could also take a bang and trigger whatever is in the right hand inlet and the left hand inlet. So what we can do is use what's called a trigger object, and I think right off the bat we should get used to the shorthand, which is just T. And we're going to trigger delivers its sequence of outputs from right to left. So my final output will be a bang to trigger a calculation, and I just want an integer for now. So I'm going to put an integer into here, and that will go in there, and that will go in there. So now no matter what I have, so there's still the 5 in there, but now if I, let's say I set that to 0, set that to 0. So we've got a normal number sequence here, but then every time I move this, I'm putting the integer in there, and then I'm triggering the calculation with the 5 that's already in there. So that's useful because there'll be plenty of times when you need to schedule how a calculation works, what gets calculated first, and trigger, and then bang, and then this is your variable that comes in here. It's going to be really important to you. But let's just have a look at how we can use this to our advantage. And it's a little bit complicated, but let's say we try a Fibonacci sequence. And a Fibonacci sequence, oh God, I'm going to have to think of this on the fly because I just said it. You can do it in a comment, I guess. It's 0, 1. And then you start by adding the two numbers together to deliver the next number. And then you add the last two numbers to deliver the next number. You add the last two numbers to deliver the next number. Okay, it's easy right now. 5, 3 and 5, 8, 8 and 5, 13, etc., etc. I'm going to stop there before I embarrass myself. But so this is why we use computers, obviously. And let's just think about what we need to do. So I need to kind of make a calculation and then store that number ready for the next calculation. So I'm going to be certainly using my addition, and from that I'll want to print this into the very small PD window, and let's say I want 10 iterations of this Fibonacci sequence. So I use a command called until, which will give me 10 bangs, and I need to store my initial numbers, and I'm going to do this using one or two starting numbers here, a 0 and a 1. I just bang those out. So my 0 will go into my int box to generate the first number and reset the sequence every time I do this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the trigger. Now I could use int, but we commonly now use floats even though they are ints. It doesn't really matter, to be honest, so let's stick with ints. Why not? Okay, let's not floats. I'm getting some errors. Now what I want to do is make sure that this is a +1 to begin with, and then I want to make my calculation, store it in there, put my first integer in there. So this is my initial starting point, so the int of 0 is going to come through here. First of all, 1 is going to go in there, 0 is going to come in there, trigger the output, and that output I want to go back into that storage, so that the next time we've got a 1 goes in there. So 1 goes in there, adds it to the 1 that's already in there, we get a 2, and the 2 comes back up into here, 2 comes down there, triggers the calculation, we get a 3, and the 2 is left in here, and the 3 comes back up here. So now we go to 3 comes down here, gives us 5, 3 comes in here, stores it ready for the next calculation. I mean, it's a little bit counterintuitive, but it's a handy way of quickly making, let's have a look, see if it works. Set these to 1 and set that to 0, trigger myself 10, and yeah, we've got 1, 1, 2, 3. If I want to, I could actually just start it with a 0 by saying print that there. So 0 comes out first, and then we get 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55. And then the nice thing is I could do 100. And we get to some very big numbers very quickly. So that's how scheduling information and thinking of the hot and cold inlets, the cold inlet being a kind of temp storage, can be used to our advantage. I hope you enjoyed the video. More later. Cheers. Bye.